and welcome to ADHD Friendly. I'm Patty Blinderman. I'm an ADHD coach with I'm up on 11 years, Becca, 11 years experience. And I invite you to check out my website, ADHDfriendly.com, for lots of resources to support you to tilt the playing field in favor of ADHD brains and thrive with ADHD. So it's episode 108.
Oh my gosh.
Ever since we crossed over the 100, I'm like, what? Every time we go to plan, I'm like, is that right? Is that right? It is.
Just flying
So
by.
I'm going to kick it off with a celebration like I always do. And then I'm going to jump into an ADHD friendly tip. The tip is related to time being finite.
Ooh.
And then that's actually going to tie with the topic this week. And the main topic that I'm going to be talking about is curating your connections to focus on quality over quantity.
Love that.
I do too. And then I am going to share what's coming up next week. You know what's coming next week.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So my celebration. So when I work with my clients, something I talk a lot about when we're creating a system or a new habit that they want to put in place for themselves is we want to create something that you don't have to push yourself to do. We want it to pull you into it. And that's really important because I always say with ADHD, we might know what we need to do. We might know how to do it, but we're still not doing it. And we get a lot of self-judgment from that experience. We also get a lot of judgment from others because they're like, all right, I don't understand why you didn't just do it. It's like, well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. So I've really been struggling the last couple of weeks. I've told you I've struggled with my walking routine, which I've been doing the 23 and 23 every day in 2020, 23, except for the 2 days over the summer where I caught that flu.
Right.
But I just do it. It's just what I do. I get up, I go. I got a whole routine. It works. I've shared that in previous episodes. It just works. It's lovely. Well, now that we're in fall, it's really dark in the mornings. And when you're watching this episode, I think the daylight savings time will have already happened, but I'm recording this a couple of weeks early, getting ready for the conference. So I've got to kind of bank a few episodes here. So when I'm recording this, the time hasn't changed yet. So it's really dark in the morning when I typically walk. And that makes it harder for me to get outside and do the walk when it just takes a little bit more effort to tolerate the idea of being out there and it's pitch black outside.
In the dark.
So I keep looking for time throughout the day to walk, and it's very draining. It's why, we talk about habits being so important because we don't have to, we set it and forget it. We just go do it because it's just part of what we do. It's not this whole like, really, thinking about brushing my teeth, thinking about when I should brush my teeth. It's like, you just go and do it. If that's a routine that's solid for you, you don't have to decide when, where, and how. You just have it as part of your habit because you do it. Well, what I found is because I'm not doing it first thing in the morning, in that window of time I do it before I sit down and have my coffee and start reading all day, I'm like, let me think about what else, looking at my schedule, when else could I fit a walk in? It's very irritating. But what I'm surprised to find is I almost would describe the habit being so strong now that the habit is pushing me into it. So instead of me pushing myself or me feeling pulled, the habit's pushing me. So I just thought, I don't know if I've ever experienced that before. And I wanted to just celebrate that because it's such a strong habit that even though it's a little draining that I have to think about when and where and, how am I going to fit it in? It's not getting missed yet. I'm aware this can be a problem over time where it could really impact.
Right. But
right now it's pushing me enough to get into it. So I don't want to break the chain, and that's working to push me into it instead of me having to find a way to pull myself into it. So I just thought that was an interesting little twist that I wanted to share as a little celebration. All right. On to this week's ADHD friendly tip. Time is finite. So this is from the book 30 Lessons for Living, Tried and True Advice from the Wisest Americans. And this was written by Carl. I don't know if I'm going to say his name correctly. I apologize, Carl. Carl Pillemer, Pillemer, Pillemer. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Pillemer. Okay. So he shares that the wisest Americans, now I did not do a deep dive of how did he find what were considered the wisest. Like, did you sign up? I'm the wisest American. I don't know. So I just putting that out there. Not sure what the criteria were to define and select the wisest Americans, but he shared that the wisest Americans, air quotes, if you're listening to this, check out ADHD Friendly YouTube channel for the podcast there. He said that their number one lesson for living a longer, happier life is that time is finite. Don't spend it regretting things.
Oh,
That
okay.
reminded me of one of my favorite quotes from Mary D. Sklar, who is an executive functioning guru, really into time management, created the Seeing My Time course, love her. But she always says, how you spend your time equals your life. And that felt very similar to don't spend your life regretting things.
Yeah.
So that's great, right? That's like one of those like, ooh, I like that. But what does it mean? You know me, I like actionable steps. I like, how do you take that sage advice and turn it into something that you can actually implement in your life? And that's what the tip is for this week. So Pillemer, Pillemer, let's call him Carl. Carl says some things that you can do. These are some of his ideas. So he said, the first thing you can do is say things now to people you care about.
Aww.
I love that. So I don't think I've ever told you this. I'm sure I didn't. About, oh gosh, 25 years ago, somewhere around there. When I just had my first child, I was living away from my family. My husband and I lived in North Carolina. All of our family was from the Northeast.
Out of state.
And didn't have that close connection. I just remembered thinking how much I grew up with my cousins and hanging out and always spending holidays and birthday parties. And I wanted them all to know how much they were like some of my favorite memories. So I remember I sat down and I wrote letters. This was back, writing them by hand and putting them in the mail and licking the envelope and putting a stamp on it. But I mailed them to my great aunt and uncle. I started with the oldest relatives first, which was good.
Yes.
I kind of thought, don't want to waste my time just in case. But I remember my grandfather telling me that it meant so much to him to get that letter, because I shared like some specific memories I had and how much joy it brought him, and that he kept it and he reread it from time to time. He told me this like, probably 10 or 15 years after I had done it. And it took a lot of time. It took a lot of effort, and I didn't write to everybody, but this was what resonated with me, was it really did feel good to tell the people who really did mean a lot to me, and that I was feeling that connection with, because I was, having my first child and thinking about it from that lens of a parent instead of the lens of the child. So say nice things now to people who you care about. And in an ADHD friendly approach, it might be shooting them a quick text. Be like, hey, thinking of you, really, miss, hanging out, or let's, find a time to talk or whatever. But just saying things to people you care about. Tip 1. All right. The other idea that he shares is savor daily pleasures instead of waiting for big ticket items to make you happy.
Ooh.
This is, I thought, really helpful too, because in our world today, everything is so focused on things, acquiring the next biggest, best thing, instead of like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy with what I have. I've got a great cup of coffee, or, whatever it is, just, what you have is enough, instead of I'm not happy until. So I thought that was an actionable thing that could be a place to focus. The other thing is, this resonates because I was just talking about this topic, work in a job you love.
It's true.
We can't always do that, but there might be ways to shift your perspective to see, what do I love about it? Maybe you don't love everything, but what do I love, or what would I need to do to be able to be in a position to move into a job that I love more?
Yeah.
I do love my job, so I do feel very, very fortunate.
Here.
But if that's not something that you currently can say, there might be a way to look at it differently, or look at what would you love doing? Kind of like, with ADHD, we just kind of keep going without pausing to really evaluate. So what would it look like if you took a beat and explored, what would a job you love look like? Okay, the next tip is I'm going to have a little disclaimer, a little caveat to go along with it. Spend the maximum amount of time you can with your parents and children. My disclaimer is, if that would bring you joy, that may not be the thing that, really is going to up the quality of your time. If that isn't a good relationship, or that, you have maybe a parent or a sibling that tears you down and isn't, a positive person to be around. But
respect your boundaries.
But Carl here, is just sharing some ideas. As always, take what works for you, leave the rest behind. The next is choose your partner carefully. Don't just rush in. So again, that can be challenging with ADHD, but I have to say, definitely something to consider. So if there's one of these that resonates, that might be the place to start. But I just like the idea of remembering time is finite, because so many of us with ADHD are time blind. We have such a hard time seeing beyond right here, right now, and really thinking about how to spend it not regretting things. So it might be like where you get up and you think, what's the one thing that I would regret today? And can I maybe not do that thing? Can I make a different choice so I'm not regretting? Or if I didn't do this, am I going to regret it at the end of the day? So maybe that would help create some structure around it. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with the main topic for today. Hello, friends. I'm ADHD Friendly Girl. Are you overwhelmed, unmotivated, run down? Do you stop before you start? The answer to your challenges can be found at ADHD Friendly. ADHD Friendly is where we make the doing easier. Join ADHD Friendly today and start tilting the playing field in favor of your ADHD brain and start thriving. ADHDfriendly.com, where intention meets action. All right, we're back. So I talked about time is finite and the tips that Carl shared.
Yes.
It ties nicely with the topic for this episode, which is curate your connections and focus on quality over quantity. So this was inspired by a USA Today article that I read last December, so almost a year ago now. And it really resonated with me, and it's been in my stack of topics to talk about for a long time, and it's finally here. So the article was called "Who Should You Be Spending More Time With? 6 Types of People to Keep Close." So again, I like when it's specific, so you have a sense of what does that mean? You know,
Right.
Who are the 6 types of people? So I've known for decades, for most of my adult life, I learned early on, I tend to attract people to me and make friends with people who help me grow. They have a skill or a knowledge set or an ability that I don't have naturally, but it's something that resonates with me that I want to develop more for myself, or that I appreciate so much, and I want to be exposed to that because it's something that can help me grow. And an example I know I've shared in the past is I have a friend, Diana, who is just one of the most genuinely kind people I know. Hi, Diana. You ever watch this? Shoot me a text, let me know you saw it. But just genuinely to her core kind. And I used to sit back and quietly just watch the small ways that she was kind, because what I know about myself is, one of the reasons, one of my favorite quotes is, the smallest of deeds supersedes the greatest of intentions, is I make grand, bold, sweeping intentions to be kind. And then I overwhelm myself and I do nothing. And it's why I'm so impressed by people that are naturally kind, because they just find these really simple, seamless ways to be kind to people very naturally.
Yeah.
And what I learned from her was I could do the little small kindnesses that don't require me to really carve out extra time, like just holding the door open for somebody, even if they're a few paces behind, where it'd be fine if I kept going, but I could just be nice and stand there for an extra beat and let them walk in. Or interacting with the person checking me out if I'm not self-checking. Yeah, it's like I'm always heartened by how most of the time they're kind of taken by surprise that you're looking them in the eye and you're actually talking to them.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot of those small gestures just from watching Diana, because I knew it's not that I'm not a kind person. I just struggled with always trying to do really big things instead of focusing on the small things. And Diana really taught me to appreciate I can do the small things and be kinder because of them. And it gives me so much back in return that sometimes it even feels selfish, because I get so much from it that I'm like, is it really for them or is it about me? But anyway, I digress. So the USA Today article shares some specific details on these 6 types of people to keep close. So I'm going to break them down and share them with you. Woo-hoo. Number 1, have people around you that tell the truth. So they say it's not just about them not lying, it's telling us the truth we don't want to hear, but we need to hear it. The part that I want to really underline, if you have ADHD, because we can be really sensitive, and particularly sensitive to rejection. is asking for that feedback or the information in a way that you can tolerate it. So I always say, please don't talk to me in a group of people. I get overwhelmed, and I won't, whether it's positive or negative, I'm not going to hear what you have to say. I'm going to be in fight or flight and just trying to figure out how to get the heck out of there.
Yes.
I need to hear it one-on-one. And depending on who you are, I might prefer you to write it. So because what I notice is I'll read what somebody wrote, and if there's anything negative, I'll read everything with a negative tone. And then if I come back and I reread it, like even 5 or 10 minutes later, I recognize, oh, I skipped a few lines. Like I totally misread the intention, and I can appreciate it in a very different way. So writing it a lot of times helps me to come back and recognize they actually weren't being really critical and mean. They were just trying to offer this perspective, and I can hear it and take it in better once I got emotional dysregulation settled and got myself emotionally back in line. So asking for the truth in a way that you can hear it. So my quick example here is when I first started this podcast, and please don't go back and watch the early episodes, but and I think I still do it, but I'm very conscious of it. So I try not to. Notice I'm looking. With my sister and one of my best friends, John, both individually told me that I wasn't looking at the camera, that they felt like, and this was back when I was recording it behind my desk, and I always made slides because I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was going to say and I didn't freeze. And I was trying really hard, but I guess because I was reading the screen and the cameras at the top of the screen, it looked like I was looking away or something. Yeah. And it was so hard to hear. I remember it was really uncomfortable. And I remember I got defensive a little bit because I was like, well, I'm doing everything I can. I was literally doing what I could. And then when I go back and I watch, I was like, okay, I am kind of doing that, but I didn't know how to fix it. But it was just something that I kept noticing and tweaking. And it was probably one of the motivators around creating a podcast corner where I would record in a different way. And so if I still don't look if you're like, yeah, I noticed that about you too, you can post it, but be kind. But I am trying. So, but again, because they're two people that I care so much about, and I knew that they were telling me because they were trying to help me, was why I could take that feedback and use it instead of getting shut down by it and deciding I'm never talking to you again, or when am I to think I could podcast and shutting it down and never doing it again. So having people who tell you the truth is the first kind of person. Second kind of person out of the 6 to have around you, people who encourage and support you. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So they say choose people who won't feel threatened by your success or your happiness. I call this people who won't keep you small. So if something happens that you're really excited about, you want to be able to tell somebody without feeling like they're just going to be irritated that that this happened for me. Yeah, or exactly, or oh yeah, whatever. Well, like that's not like let's say if the comment about not looking at the camera came from somebody who I know tends to be critical and judgmental of things I do. Well, first of all, if I know that with them, I probably could dismiss it a little bit more. But is that somebody I want in my life, right? If I'm filtering what I'm going to say because I know you're not going to receive it in a way, but I also want you to be able to tell me your success and your wins, and I want to be happy, right? And if I'm not, I might want to be honest, like to be able to say, okay, I'm going to be honest, I'm a little envious right now, but I am excited for you. Yeah. Because if I'm feeling it, it's authentic. Totally. But if I'm not sharing it, then we're not being truthful. Okay. So number 3, make people who make space for your emotions. Okay. So if you have ADHD, this is really important because we tend to have very strong emotions. So if you can't own those emotions, it's going to get in the way of you feeling that connection. So we need people who respect our feelings and understand that sometimes we just want to be heard. So I always say, especially in my own family, if somebody, is telling me something and they're really fired up, I'm like, okay, I just need to know, do you need me to be your listening partner? Or do you want me to be looking for ideas or suggestions?
Solutions.
Right. Am I a problem solver here, or you just need me to listen?
Right. Are you just
because
venting?
It will frustrate me if I don't know what my role is, because I have to focus at a different level if you're looking for solutions, as opposed to you're just looking for
I just want to talk.
you
Talk
just
it
want to
out.
vent it out.
Yeah.
So making sure that you have people that can hear you without trying to fix you
Yeah.
is really important. But also again, with that ADHD friendly lens of, if somebody is venting to me, especially at the end of the day, I might say, I can do it for 3 minutes. You got 3 minutes to vent your heart out, and then we're going to need to stop.
Yeah. Because that's
And if people
draining.
know that, it can support them a lot of times too, because it's like, okay, all right, I got 3 minutes, go.
Reel it in.
Right. And so it manages expectations too. It's like, I'm here for you, but I'm not here for you to go on and keep talking about it for an hour, because then I feel like I'm out of integrity, because I don't feel like I'm listening. I feel like, I'm not listening.
Yeah.
It's not a good situation. So make space for those emotions. Number 4, people who people who model qualities that you desire. Just like I shared before. Right? So like I always say, like I intentionally seek out people who have strengths and qualities that I want to strengthen in myself, or I admire and I enjoy being around. So yeah, already spoke about that one. Number 5, people who understand and accept you. Yep, I call this your peeps, your tribe. These are people who you can be your authentic self with. You're not hiding parts of yourself to fit in and be accepted. You want to choose people who encourage you to be you, and they can be themselves, so that we literally are at that space where we can just be.
Totally.
And not have, takes a lot of effort and energy to pretend to be something that you're not.
Absolutely.
It's exhausting. And I shared in, I don't know, Becca, you're going to put the episode number, where I shared that the conference is coming up. Baltimore, November 3rd through December 2nd, and then the online conference, December 5th and 6th. These are our people. I have never felt more comfortable being me in a group environment, which typically is very overwhelming for me, than I do when I attend the conference in person.
Aww.
They are totally our people. It's just a unique situation that I highly recommend. So again, you want to be able to be you. And then number 6, people who show up authentically. And I feel like this just ties the first 5 together.
All together. Just
like you want to be yourself, we need people to be themselves too. That only happens when we feel safe and accepted. And when we feel that way, it creates the space to grow. It creates an ability for us to be vulnerable, for us to be transparent, because we're not feeling like we're going to be judged. I always say, like I might say things here, they might come out in a way I'm not intending. I hope you keep my intentions at heart, and know that what I'm saying is in an honoring way. But please let me know if I say something, and my kids will be like, Mom, you can't say that anymore. And I'm like, I didn't mean anything by it. But if you can say it in a way that I can learn and grow from it, then it's win-win. But if I feel judged, I'm just not going to ever talk about that topic again, because I don't know how to talk about it in a way that's honoring. So if we feel safe, we can grow and have those conversations and feel safe while having them. So that leads me to a quote. So Jim, again, a name I don't know how to pronounce the last name, Rohn, R-O-H-N, said, "We are the average of the 5 people we spend most of our time with." That has stuck with me forever. And it's where I first started doing the curating of the connections in my life. So when you think about the 5 people who take up the most of your time, what qualities do they have that you like? What qualities do they have that you don't like? And are there people in your life who simply aren't serving you? And this is not an easy place to explore. It can be uncomfortable. It will require boundaries. But if people aren't helping you grow, they're probably keeping you small. And life's too short. When you think about living with intention, we're here to grow. We're here to become our best self. So it can be challenging, but I agree that when it comes to people that I keep close, quality is much more important than quantity every time. So that is the idea for today, curating your connections. Not easy, but very worthwhile. Okay. And I've got a quote from our book for this week. Got my whole system down now with flag in it.
Ooh.
Yep. So I got my green flag, means it's the quote of the day. So the quote from Excellent Advice for Living from Kevin Kelly is, If you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Hang out with and learn from people smarter than yourself. Even better, find smart people who will disagree with you. I love that because again, it goes to growing. If I'm the smartest person in the room, doesn't happen often, but if I am, what am I learning? It might feel good to be like, yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that. I already know that, but I'm not growing. I'm just demonstrating I already know things. Well, sounds so like whoop-de-doo, like so what? But I'm not growing, so that's not serving me. Okay, and then I want to finish with what am I reading this week?
Ooh.
Oh my gosh, guys. Brand new book. It's called The Reign of Marvel Studios, MCU. It's by Joanna Robinson, Dave Gonzalez, and Gavin Edwards. Just came out in October. And it reminds me, this is going to sound funny, it reminds me of 1776 by David McCullough, which read like a nail-biting page turn. I was literally reading that going, like, I just remember thinking, if this was how they taught history in high school, I would have been a history major in college. It was the best written book. Well, similarly, and I'm a Marvel fan. I love Iron Man. Like, I love Captain America. I love the Avengers. Like, I'm really, really into Marvel. This, I heard it described, and it's so apropos so far. If you're a diehard Marvel fan, you've been reading the comics for years, there's something in here for you. If you know nothing about Marvel, there's tons of things in here for you. It's for Marvel fans of all backgrounds, ages. It is fascinating. There's so many little details. She like even like references, like she's like, oh, so in 2008 they had a meeting and then decided to go to dinner and they ate at, and she'll like name the restaurant they were eating. I'm like, oh my gosh, the details are insane. But it reminds me of 1776, where it's a literal page turner. I recently finished the chapter on the end credits and how they decided to do the end credits. It was just so fascinating. So I highly recommend it so far. Really enjoying it. All right, to recap this episode, I shared my ADHD friendly tip about time being finite and focusing on not spending it doing things that you're going to regret. So as my word for the year is intention, doing things intentionally. And then the topic of this week, curate your connections, focusing on quality over quantity. If you try either the tip or one of the suggestions for curating your connections, we'd love to hear about it. Episode 108, if you want to post it in the comments, we'd love to hear what worked for you. And if something didn't work, we want to hear that too. Next episode, Becca. Next, it's our third annual ADHD Friendly Favorite Things. We're going to be diving into our favorite things for the year in time for the holidays. So if you're looking for some ideas, we're going to be sharing them. So that's next week. That's it for this episode. As always, take what works for you, leave the rest behind. Remember, if you haven't checked out ADHD Friendly, I invite you to visit the website, adhdfriendly.com. Lots of resources on there. Information about the membership platform, that there's a special price going on through the conference. So I am committed to, when you sign up, the price you sign up, when the price that's offered at the time you sign up is the price it will be. I am not a fan of prices going up. I believe in honoring the people who joined when they joined. And if the price goes up in the future, that will not impact you. So check it out. I'm working really hard. Becca's supporting me in that work to really make it something that meets you where you are, so that you're building from there without judgment and with lots of resources to tilt the playing field in favor of your brain so you're thriving with ADHD. Until next time, tally ho.